Fueled by Temperance Spirits, Edmonton's leading non-alcoholic beverage provider. Order online for doorstep delivery.
Welcome back to Game Over Edmonton, your local leader in post-game Oilers analysis. In this episode, it's fueled by Temperance Spirits, the city's leading non-alcoholic beverage provider.
Visit Temperance online for a curated section of non-alcoholic options. Choose from a variety of craft beers, mocktails, wines, and spirits.
Temperance isn't just a retailer, it's a community of Edmontonians who celebrate the spirit of socializing without the need for alcohol. And with Temperance Spirits online shop, ordering your favorite non-alcoholic bevies right to your door is as easy as Connor scoring the winning goal.
You can find our partners at Temperance online at www.temperance-spirits.com for delivery to your door, and use the code SDPN for 10% off your order at checkout.
And give them a follow on Instagram and Facebook at Temperance Spirits.
Yo. Game Over Edmonton is live on SDPN. And folks, they won. They won a game on the road. We're coming to you live from the house of Avry Lewis McDougall here. The Edmonton Oilers knocked off the Washington Capitals 5-0. And, well, I got to say, first off the bat, I am very impressed with this team. Had a phenomenal start. Peppering Troy Lindgren, making life tough for him as Edmonton gets their first win on this road trip of the southeast part of the USA. Better late than never. And we are welcoming to the podcast, to the show, to recap things, a first-time guest on Game Over Edmonton from Daily Hive Edmonton. It is Preston Hodgkinson. Welcome to the show. Preston, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. A lot happier now that I get to talk about a 5-0 win rather than a defeat here. So I think I'm in some rare territory this season that we can actually talk about a win. So happy to be here.
It's true. And Preston, Edmonton started off in this game. They got a 2-0 lead. That was a common theme throughout this entire road trip. Edmonton being up 2-0 against Florida, 2-0 against Tampa. And here against Washington, they don't blow it.
Yeah, I know. It's weird that we're watching a hockey team where you almost don't want them to get a 2-0 lead because we've seen them blow it so many times. So I know I wasn't really sitting comfortable with that 2-0 lead in the first period, but once they started to get 3-4, I started to lay back a little bit. Glad that they were able to finally fight their demons here and hold a lead for once.
No, exactly. It's funny because you're here now on a game day in which Edmonton wins, and the common theme for Game Over Edmonton on SDPN is that the numbers usually go far higher when this team loses. So I'm seeing a dip now because people love just seeing the chaos of Edmonton people reacting. So it's kind of funny how Edmonton wins, our numbers are kind of dipping right now for live viewership.
Well, anytime you have a Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and they're looking dejected, they're giving each other those like sympathy pats on the bench like we've seen in Carolina yesterday. People eat that up. They want to they love to hate on Edmonton. They love to talk about McDavid wanting out. So hopefully this is the start of a brand new trend where we can start talking about Connor McDavid as he usually is. And he was dominant tonight. I believe he had 4 assists tonight. So hopefully we can start talking about that a little bit more.
No, exactly. Mentioned Connor McDavid. Yeah, the big guns all had major nights tonight, multi-point nights from McDavid, Draisaitl, Preston Hodgkinson. Like, this was a night in which, for a long time this year, we've been saying where have been the big guns stepping up consistently, and you got that from all the key cogs in that Oilers top 6 forward group stepping up in a major way, Preston, tonight.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and Connor McDavid, it's strange. It was a strange start to the season for him. Obviously, he wasn't 100% for a lot of it. And that's the numbers that we come to expect from McDavid weren't there. So I know it might seem a little cliche to be sitting here and being like, well, look at Connor McDavid. He looks so good these last few games. And again, tonight, like I said, another fantastic night. But it just truly looks like he's starting to find his stride here. He's looking like the Connor McDavid we know and love. He's starting to put up those points. He's starting to be that leader on the ice. So it's very nice, obviously, for the Oilers to seemingly have their captain back firing on all cylinders. And hey, Draisaitl too, that second goal on the power play, I believe, or the first goal on the power play where they did that backhand to forehand move. Like that was such a refreshing sight for Oilers fans.
No, of course it was. You mentioned the power play right there. Something that had struggled quite a bit on this road trip. Edmonton gets 3 power play goals. We saw the ferocity of the power play last season. Getting the power play back again, that's the scary thing if you're an opposing team, knowing that this power play might finally be clicking again like it was for all of last season, Preston.
Oh yeah, no, and this isn't just this game. You look back at the third period of the Carolina game, the Oilers were able to get power play marker to cut the lead to 5-3. So it's over the last 4 periods here. It looks like the team has been firing on all cylinders here. The power play is looking like that dangerous power play, that NHL best ever power play that we saw last year. So I don't know what was said in the second intermission of that Carolina Hurricanes game, but man, oh man, it's got their power play back on track and the whole team back on track recently here. So, yeah.
Right. No, it's been amazing. And of course, again, someone who I've supported for quite some time, and I would say in a way he's right now, the time being one of the more polarizing Oilers has been Evan Bouchard. And we see all kinds of takes on Evan Bouchard, from trade him, send him to Bakersfield, send him to Fiji. Like, I'm very much in the aspect of like, no, you do not win any trade dumping Evan Bouchard. And yes, there have been times this year in which Evan has had issues on the back end, but he makes up for it more offensively. And once again today, we see Evan Bouchard from the point that slap shot beat Troy Lindgren. This is what Evan Bouchard can bring you so well as an offensive defenseman. We saw it again today.
Oh no, absolutely. Like I agree with you 100% that you cannot trade Evan Bouchard. And let's not kid ourselves. He has struggled in the defensive zone this year. He is still a young defenseman. This is, I believe, his 3rd full season in the NHL. There's still going to be those things that he has to clean up in his zone. And I think a lot of what we're seeing here is not only Evan Bouchard struggling, but the goalie behind him is not giving him much of a chance at all. Like, Evan Bouchard's a great offensive defenseman. He's never going to be that defensive stalwart that you want. He's never going to have that 100% perfect defensive game. You need a goalie to get a save in there. And when that doesn't happen, every mistake looks like it's going into the net. So I think it's skewing his numbers just a little bit. And this is a guy that's like, 23, 24. I can't remember his exact age right now. But he's on pace, like a point per game pace as a defenseman. He's on pace for around 80 points. That is not something you see a lot in this league from a defenseman. Obviously, Erik Karlsson had 100 last year. But if he's able to keep this pace, he'll be the first defenseman since Paul Coffey to reach that 80-point mark, and only the second Oiler defenseman in franchise history to ever get more than 60-some. So no, absolutely, you don't give up on this guy. It's you get rid of him on that back end. Where's that offense coming from? You'll get some from Nurse, you'll get some from Ekholm, but not that sheer volume that we're seeing Bouchard get almost on a consistent basis this season. So no, he's struggling, but absolutely you see him out for a little bit here.
No, exactly. And to blame one person on that blue line is the wrong thing. I said before on this show, it's been the collective. You can't put the blame on one person, be it a Bouchard, be it a Nurse, be it an Ekholm, be it a Desharnais. It's funny because we'll talk about defense. Today, it looked great defensively. They limited the Washington chances, and they neutralized for the most part any real threat Washington had. I mean, look at the big names. The big names on Washington had a bunch of zeros behind their stats today.
Yeah, no, and I think outside of the first period, there's a few moments in the first period where it was a little tense, but luckily Stuart Skinner, who I'm sure we'll talk about quick here, had a fantastic game himself and the limited chances that he did face. Yeah, no, I think the team looked very sound defensively for the most part here, and that's just one game though. You got to string it together. So while it's positive right now, and we can be happy about the team settling things down. I mean, Washington's no slouch this year. They won 5 straight coming into this one, and the Oilers beat them 5-0. So be happy about it, build on it. Hopefully you can string this into another streak here and work your way towards a 500 record, because right now they're still 6 games back of that.
No, it's true. And of course, this road trip wasn't what this team wanted. Of course, you want to see this team get more than one win on a road trip. But end of the day, this team needs points somewhere with the way the division is going, with the way the fact you mentioned right there, the fact you are still chasing in the Pacific Division, Anaheim, Vancouver. You got to find a way to take points we can get them right now.
Yeah, and with the next game being against the Anaheim Ducks, I'm sure if you asked an Oiler fan 2-3 months ago what they thought about this upcoming game against the Anaheim Ducks, I think we'd be having a very different conversation. Obviously, the Ducks are off to a better than expected start, and the Oilers are off to a way worse start than everyone expected as well. So kind of roles reversed here, but you can't look at this Anaheim Ducks team as someone that you can just easily roll over. They're pretty decent this season. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but yeah, no, it's going to be a long hill to climb to get up this division, even though this division is looking like one of the weaker ones in the league. So,
You know what? Even though the Pacific Division you can say is one of the weaker ones, it's still to me, and always been for a very long time, the most entertaining one because of that fact. Because it is pure chaos. Because you don't know, you cannot prognosticate this division in terms of what's going to happen. Really, outside of the Vegas Golden Knights, like again, people really saw the division being what 1, 2, 3 in most predictions. Vegas and a combination of 2, 3 Edmonton, Calgary. People didn't see when the season began the teams behind Vegas being Anaheim and Vancouver. That wasn't anybody's prediction, really.
no, and I think one of the things that makes the Pacific Division so entertaining is that not only are the lows very low with like the likes of the Oilers and San Jose Sharks being among the bottom third in the league, bottom third teams in the league, but the highs are also very high. Like you got the Vancouver Canucks and the Vegas Golden Knights are among the best performing teams in the NHL right now. So you're getting a little bit of everything, and then obviously the Anaheim Ducks and the Calgary Flames
And
that
LA
are
as
kind
well,
of middle
so,
of the
yeah.
pack. LA is also very good. I tried to block them out for some reason. I don't know. Maybe his last 2 playoff rounds, I don't really like to give him credit, but but that's the top 3 in the division right now are fantastic, and it's going to be hard for the Oilers to overcome this start and try to get into that top 3 pack there. Right now, the team might just be focused on okay, we got to get into a wild card spot. Once we do that, let's see if we can push. Like we've seen the Oilers last few seasons have fantastic second halves of the season. They're going to need that and a little bit more here. It's not going to magically, they're going to be second, third in the division overnight here. It's going to be a season-long effort to get back to that point.
No, of course. And you're going to need more than just one good game in which this team plays a full 60 minutes. Great, yes. You beat Washington, you shut down that team who was one of the better ones in the Eastern Conference. But you mentioned there, you're going to have to do it again now against Anaheim. And now after Anaheim, they're playing Vegas now. They're playing a bunch of teams after this game against Washington that are either in their conference or in their division. You're going to need a lot more of those games again, like tonight, which it's a full 60 and not just a good 25-40.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good litmus test. I find, a lot of people said that this road trip on the East Coast was very important, and considering the state of the team and the record going into the road trip, it obviously was. Didn't turn out that great, but this upcoming homestand, these next 2 games, I think is almost an even better litmus test because we get to see how this team stacks up against not only the best in our division in the Vegas Golden Knights, but the best in the league as well, and a team that they will have to overcome in the Anaheim Ducks in their division. So I think this will say a lot about this team and how they perform over these next 2 games.
It really will be. And of course, on the back end, we've seen the biggest story right now, I would say, in hockey is Edmonton and goaltending. What are they going to do? Are they going to keep rolling with Skinner and Pickett or Picard? Are they going to trade for somebody? And today, Stuart Skinner, when called upon, gets a shutout, makes some big saves. I know he didn't have the busiest night like Charlie Lindgren, but he still made some strong 10-bell saves to deny the Capitals in tight.
Yeah, no, a fantastic bounce back effort is exactly what you want to see from Skinner, especially following that horrendous start in Carolina. Stuart Skinner is a good goalie. We've seen how he can play. We've seen that he can be a number 1 goalie in this league. And obviously he's still young. There's the sophomore slump you have to take into account that seems to mystify players in their second year. But today, I guess it's an early game. Today showed that Stuart Skinner can be a good NHL goalie here. Who's just going through a bad start. Obviously, it's magnified when the team is doing as poorly as it is. But yeah, hopefully this is the start of something good for him. Hopefully he can string together another couple wins. We've seen him do it earlier this month on that 3-game win streak. Things kind of fell off at the end here in the last 3 games as well, though. So hopefully it looked good tonight. Hopefully he continues.
No, of course. I agree too. I've said before here on this show, I like Stuart Skinner a lot in terms of what he's done. And again, he's still a young goaltender. There's still things for him to figure out. It's a sophomore slump. I'm not ready to punt on Stuart Skinner when we've seen goaltenders bounce back in year 3 and year 4, and there's still time for Stuart to rebound. I just really feel like he's going to need a better tandem partner going forward the rest of the year, and be it someone like a Samuel Maltonblow, be it a Jake Allen or somebody else when this team does decide to trade for a second goaltender.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the league is heading, right? You can't just run one goaltender like you were able to maybe a decade ago. You need two solid goaltenders, and right now the Oilers don't have that. So the only option they have is running Skinner into the ground, and he's shown last season. We've seen near the end of the year and into the playoffs, those cracks started to form. The fatigue started to set in, and it didn't look good. It was probably made that LA series a little more tense than it should have, right? And then we obviously the Vegas series didn't go quite as well for him as well. So yeah, right now the team is kind of stuck. I don't think Picard, he's looked okay at times in his 2 appearances with the Oilers, but he's not the long-term guy. It's obviously not a guy that should be here the entire season. There's lots of talk among the Oilers that they want to give Jack Campbell another try, and he did get a shutout in his last AHL start. If you want to bank on that and ignore the entire other sample size he's given for the Oilers the last 2 seasons, go for it. It's not gonna be that surefire solution. So it seems like the Oilers are a little more inclined to be patient with Campbell in a time where patience is near the amount of patience that the Oilers fan base has and the Oilers season has to turn around is near zero. So it will be interesting to see if Ken Holland can try to upgrade, or if he's just going to roll with Skinner here and see if the season magically turns around.
Like, this team has really put themselves against the 8 ball when it comes to the contracts and the deals. And you mentioned right there the Jack Campbell situation where, yes, he does have a shutout against Henderson. But before that, his save percentage was what, below 820? Like, if you're gonna call Campbell back up, I need to see more performances like that in AHL before going, oh, 1 shutout, bring him back. Like, I need more recovery from him than that.
Yeah, and I think you're not alone in that. I don't think a lot of fans think that giving Jack Campbell another chance here to figure things out is the best course of action. If the Oilers were going to punt this season and say, you know what, this is a wash, I can see it. Why not? If they were rebuilding, sure, give your guy another chance. But this is a team with Stanley Cup aspirations still. This is a season they can't afford to punt on. They have superstars Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid. Their contracts are up in a few years. Missing the playoffs right now would be seemingly just put a large dent in their chances of trying to re-sign those guys, right? That's what logic would dictate. Those are 2 guys that want to win, and if they can't win right now, I don't know. It's a very risky bet. So I'm not a fan of the give Jack Campbell another chance to take the crease. But at this point, if they can't find a trade and they're determined on not overpaying for a trade, which is probably what they'll have to do because teams are going to be all over a desperate Oilers team, it's going to be dicey to say the least, I think.
No, of course. When you're like the Oilers, teams don't throw you life jackets. They throw you boat anchors after boat anchors. Like, they know it's going to bail you out. Like, I've heard agents before have said, don't help the Oilers out. Like, no one wants to see this team succeed. So if there was a trade to be had for Ken Holland, he's not in theory going to quote unquote win that trade for a goaltender.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. Like, if Ken Holland just sits back and says, well, we'll call up Jack Campbell, and he calls it a day and things go sideways, is not going to be a good look. If he goes out and blows a bunch of assets and on a new goaltender, say a Sam Montembeault or a Jake Allen, and it doesn't work out, it's going to look bad too. If either of those situations turn out great, then it's a different conversation. So it's a difficult position to be in, but I definitely don't think the right idea or the right plan for the Oilers moving forward here is to just sit on their hands and magically hope that Jack Campbell magically regains form here. So yeah, I think desperate times call for desperate measures. So I think you have to roll the dice here on a new goaltender.
Right? No, I agree. Going back to the game here today, Preston, were there any? Of course, we talked about the play of guys like Draisaitl, McDavid, Randy Hopkins. Was there one player that you felt didn't get was there one underrated Oiler you felt today that stepped up that we didn't really hear about that much that in the background had a solid game in your mind today?
Yeah, I like the top six guys. I think all three of them had a goal. I believe. Did Zach Hyman have a goal tonight? Feels like
he did. Yes, I'm had a goal.
yeah, Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, they all scored goals tonight, and that's exactly what you want to see. Obviously, they're the top six guys. You can't have just Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl getting all the points out there. So it was nice to see that all three of them were able to contribute on the score sheet. Evander Kane, I have to specifically shout out. I was all over him at the beginning of the season. His underlying analytics were terrible. He looked like he was a drag on the ice for guys like McDavid, and he's since the Heritage Classic, he's really turned it around. He's scoring goals. He's looking good out there. He's getting engaged physically, which is a critical part of his game. So yeah, I'm gonna say Evander Kane is a player I've been very impressed with lately. And hey, Zach Hyman too. Like it seems like he's scoring every game now. So I think he's on pace for like a career high in goals. He could score 40 this year if he keeps that pace. So I think he's kind of quietly having himself a great month of November here while the team is struggling. So yeah, I would say those two guys.
Yeah, no, Zach Hyman. Yeah, Kane and Hyman have been two players who I've been impressed for since the Heritage Classic. They've been stepping up in many ways when we have not seen the production as usual from McDavid and Draisaitl. Those have been two of the key cogs that definitely deserve their props for what they've done to help keep this offense afloat, even during some dire times early this season, Preston.
Yeah, no, and I think on the back end too, we're starting to see Matthias Ekholm be a little more back to his old self as well. Obviously, he didn't start the season 100% injured before training camp. Excuse me. And it's looking like he's getting more engaged out there. He's starting to lay the body. He's starting to get some points up on the board. He scored once against Carolina, I believe. So that will be huge for the team as well to have him and Bouchard firing on all cylinders. And yeah, no, I think there's lots of positives to be had. It's just been a kind of an unlucky few months for the Oilers too.
Yeah, no, it has. You mentioned T. Ekholm, right? Again, he was a guy we all knew needed some time to get recovered because he didn't play preseason games. He's recovering. But even against Carolina, you saw him getting his stick in front of passing lanes, breaking up play. You saw it again today. When Matthias Ekholm is fully healthy, like that is the thing that he brings that made him such a solid player for Nashville and I made him one of the better D-men in Edmonton. The fact that he can get in passing lanes and break up chances and be a nuisance to play against on zone entries.
Yeah, and he's outside of Darnell Nurse, he's the player on the back end with the most oomph to his game, I think, as well, right? You don't want to go into the corner with Matthias Ekholm. Obviously, there was the incident with TJ Oshie that I think was completely accidental today, but it shows just how solid of a guy this guy is. They just ran into each other, and Oshie took the brunt of it, and it didn't look good. So it just gives you an idea of how just solid of a player and frame that Ekholm has, and if he can get back to his old defensive self, it will be magnificent for the Oilers back end and for the defensive situation as well.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more. And with this win here, again, this is a thing that used to be was kryptonite for a very long time. I'm sure you remember, Preston. Edmonton Oilers winning games before 4 p.m. Eastern time. No matter who it was against, especially in the East Coast, no matter who it was, if it was a game before 4 p.m. Eastern, it was a guaranteed loss night. It was a guaranteed 5-1, 3-0, 7-1 drubbing. And I'm glad this team has finally figured out how to win games that start before the sun goes down in the Eastern time zone.
Hey, the sun's almost down here too, so I don't know if just the Eastern time zone. I think we have a 4:30 mountain sunset here. So, but yeah, no, it's fantastic that we can watch an Oilers game before 4 o'clock hits here in Edmonton and not be upset all night and have that in the back of our minds. Instead, we get to put a smile on our face, rejoice a little bit, be happy, and take home a 5-0 victory where everyone played good, like we were discussing. Good defensive zone play, good offensive zone, good contributions from the big guns, and Stuart Skinner got his much-needed first shutout of the season. So, yeah, no, it's very nice that we can bring out the alcohol in a positive way on a Friday night.
And again, and it's probably the first time in a very long time. I know we're all online that Oilers Twitter is somewhat in harmony. Oilers Twitter can be we've seen for many years Oilers Twitter can be a very volatile place. Nice to see not as much drama after
Yeah.
Oilers game tonight.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. I got to experience a little bit of that volatile Twitter atmosphere yesterday. I wrote an article on Ethan Bear potentially being an option for the Oilers if they want a cheap a way to shake up their defense. I think I got like 80 replies, and I don't even want to read them here. There were some choice words for me for that suggestion. So yeah.
You know, I find that so odd that there's opposition because when he was here in Edmonton, he was a solid defender. So I would not be opposed to bringing him back. I guess it really would depend more on if he'd want to come back. But if he had a willingness to come back to Edmonton, in a heartbeat, I'd bring him back. In a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. From a purely hockey standpoint, it makes a world of sense to at least phone Ethan Bear's agent and see if there's interest. Obviously, from how everything transpired with how he left, there might be some hesitancy to come back into the market, but it just he would be a welcome addition here. I don't think a lot of people pay attention to how he was used in Vancouver last year. He spent the majority of his time playing with Quinn Hughes on that top pairing. Like, he played in a top pairing role last year in the NHL and had pretty decent results with Hughes, even though, Vancouver's defense last year was kind of leaky at times, but that doesn't take away that the on-ice analytics with Hughes and Bear were pretty positive. So yeah, there's a big history between Bear and Nurse. I think they've had over 1,400 minutes together here in Edmonton. So there's a familiarity there. He could jump in. It's a bit risky because he's coming off such a long injury, but hey, I can't imagine he'd cost that much on a contract. So why not give a call? Why not see it? You could maybe rejig your defensive pairs, and yeah, I think it's something worth exploring. I wasn't saying absolutely 100% they should do it, but I think it's absolutely something that could be in the interest of the team.
Yeah, why not? And you mentioned the cheap deal. I mean, we know this team is up against it when it comes to the salary cap. Yeah, bringing Ethan Bear on the cheap with the money you have left, why not go for it? He's not going to be a guy that's going to break your bank right now.
Yeah, if things go sideways, you don't have to sign him to like a 5-year deal. Just sign him to a 1-year deal if he accepts, and then if things go sideways, then part ways in the summer or something like that. Again, this is all assuming that he'd be open to that, something like that. I know there's been reports that teams like the Vancouver Canucks are going to be aggressive in signing him. So maybe he finds a better deal there. But I think just checking in on him couldn't hurt at all. And speaking of the team being low on cap, it's part of the reason why I kind of suspect that the Oilers might consider Yaroslav Halak on a cheap 1-year deal as well. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think that that brings all sorts of risks. I'm not even confident he's an upgrade on Stuart Skinner, but just because of the ease of it, right? All you have to do is sign him to a 1-year deal. He's obviously desperate for a contract. He was on a PTO in Carolina and was released. All you have to do is call him and say, "Hey, want to play in Edmonton for the rest of the season for $850,000." Right? Then if that happens, Ken Holland can throw his hands up and be like, "Look, I found a new guy," right? Whether it works out or not, right? At least he can say, "Hey, I found a new guy. I did something here." So yeah, it's something that I was thinking about last week as well.
Yeah, no, it's true, and I think, and yeah, that's a good point. In which I could see Ken Holland saying, yeah, I found an option. Another option which comes across as lazy to an extent. It doesn't come across truly as trying to find a solution. And I don't believe Ken Holland's power is as much as once. I think there's some power still, but I think the bulk of it now, Preston, is more in the hands of Jeff Jackson going forward here.
Yeah, it's definitely seems that way. You look at the media availability when they hired Chris Knobloch, and there was a few moments where you could point into that where you're not really too sure who's calling the shots there. So it looks like, it sounds like nothing. I'm not reporting anything. It's pure speculation, but it feels like the Oilers are doing Ken Holland a solid by not firing him right now, and they're just gonna coast him off into the sunset no matter what happens. Now, do I necessarily agree with that? No, especially when the season is such an important one for the Edmonton Oilers. I don't think you can just keep a GM just to do him a solid, right? I think this would be an opportune time. If you were going to make the change, do it now and give the next guy in charge a little bit of a head start on things rather than coasting Holland into retirement. So Yeah, it's a little bit of a circus for the Oilers management at this point as to who's in charge. But if you've been an Oilers fan for as long as I have, that's nothing new. So it's just the latest chapter.
Right? And we know this team. We know for the most part in the front office, there's never truly outside Pete Chiarelli a true firing. It's always you're promoted or you're assigned differently to like the vice president of like. There's always like this new vice president or a senior role. I'm shocked that hasn't happened yet, where Holland hasn't been moved to like a senior vice president assistant role, and you have the interim come in and finish up the year, be it a Brad Holland or a Keith Gretzky, whoever that might be.
Yeah, and I think
That's
the conversation about who could potentially be the next GM is kind of a funny one in Edmonton. Obviously, there was reports last week here or earlier this week that Dave Gagne, who's a player agent for Wasserman Hockey, could be a candidate to replace Holland. Now, he doesn't have any prior NHL GM experience. He'd be in his first role here in Edmonton. But there is that connection with Jeff Jackson, who obviously helped found Wasserman Hockey. So that's a interesting conversation to have. But another guy I think is just funny how we talk about him is Brad Holland, because I'm a big fan of him. But if you kind of look at it from an outsider's perspective, it's really weird that a lot of fans are in favor of what can be perceived as a nepotism hire, because that is Ken Holland's son. But I think Brad is a forward-thinking executive in the league. He's been with the Oilers for as an assistant GM for a few years now. I think he could and he fits that analytics-driven mindset that Jeff Jackson seems to hold as well. So I think that's probably the leading candidate right now if we were to hire a GM at this moment, right? So yeah, it's going to be interesting at the end of the year, if not sooner.
Yeah, no, it really will be in terms of who comes in and is that next GM for the Oilers in 24-25. And of course, you want to get your questions in, your comments. We'll go to the press conference. Please, if you have any comments, concerns, fire them off into the SDPN inbox here in the chat section. We wrap things up here on Game Over Edmonton. And, I mentioned this road trip. I want to ask you. I know he wasn't on most of his road trip due to the fact he was on the dad's trip with his son Jake. But what are your thoughts on this road trip of Jamal Mayers tapping in for Louis DeBrusk for a couple of games? I think he did a great job. I thought Jamal did a great job on the broadcast and Sportsnet.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed with Jamal in those few games. Obviously former player, he knows kind of the ins and outs of the game, just like Louis. So I think we didn't miss a lot of that. And to just step up and be on the broadcast for a fan base that is as hyper focused as the Edmonton Oilers fans are, he did a fantastic job. I've seen nothing but rave reviews from him. Obviously, it's big shoes to fill when you come in for Louis, who's been on. I think he's the only color guy I've ever watched on Oilers local broadcasts. I grew up with Kevin Quinn and Louis, and now Jack and Louis. So big shoes to fill, but I thought he did it fantastically.
No, yeah, and yeah, it's not easy going in and being an analyst on a team that you don't cover every single day, because Jamal is more in the studios for Sportsnet. But I thought he did a really good job, and I thought the way he broke down certain plays against in the games against Tampa, so I thought he was very smart. And if you didn't know he didn't usually cover Oilers games, you wouldn't tell. You wouldn't have known he covered Oilers games.
No, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a full-time role here soon. I think he aced his kind of test there. Seeing how he would do. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in between the benches a little more often.
No, exactly, and that goes to show how young you are, Preston. Because I remember before Louis, I remember the old color voice was Ray Ferraro, because we had him here.
Oh, I hear about that a lot.
Yeah, Ray Ferraro, and he was, the funny thing with Ray Ferraro was that he was very blunt. Like Louis can be at times a diplomat. Like I love Louis, know Louis myself. Like he can be very diplomatic. Ray Ferraro at times was very blunt, no nonsense. He called it as he saw it. It was so fun to see, because Ray didn't care. Even now at TSN, like Ray is still very blunt in his assessments. But even back then with Oilers, he was calling games in the early to mid 2000s. He was very honest about what he saw at Rexall Place.
Yeah, well, that's what makes Ray Ferraro, right? Like that's why he's one of the best in the biz. So yeah, no, I missed his tenure with the Oilers by a little bit. I'm 24 right now. I started watching Oilers hockey when I was about 6 years old. Fun fact, my first hockey game that I've ever watched on the TV was the Game 7 loss. So
Oh.
I came in at the roughest times, and then I endured the decade of darkness as a teenager, and now I'm in my 20s here. It's been a little bit better, but it's been kind of a blast to the past for these first few months.
Yeah, the decade of dark. That's been tough growing up in the teenage years, like your first formative years, seeing this team go through the muck and the days of Victor Fostin net and the days of jersey tossing in multiple games. Like,
yeah, no, it's a unique time to grow up watching the team, especially because when I look back on one of my favorite players on the Oilers during that time, it's Jeff Duran Delorier in net. It's a very not your typical favorite player growing up, but that's just what the Oilers did to me in my teenage years.
it's funny. I love Jeff because you're one of my favorite goalies as well too. And actually, funny, I did a TV show with Jeff for a couple of years on CTV. I did a hockey show with him and Jason Strudwick. It was myself, Strudwick, and Jeff Delorier talking hockey on CTV for a couple of years. So, wow.
I'd be starstruck. I know I did something for the Oil Rig over the summer where I was writing then. I just did best player for each number, and I put Delorier in for, I think, his number 38.
38.
And
yes.
he liked the tweet, and I got kind of starstruck for my first time. So...
Oh man, that is funny. That is hilarious here. As we'll wrap things up here on Game Over Edmonton. Preston, where can people find your work? Where can they find your work on the interwebs? I know you do all good stuff here covering the Oilers.
Yeah, no, I am a staff writer for Daily Hive and Offside, so you can find my stuff on Daily Hive Edmonton or Offside. You can find my tweets on Twitter at NHL Hodgkinson, so that's NHL HODGKINSON. And I tweet there pretty frequently, and there's always stuff going up from Sunday to Thursday from me on Daily Hive.
Awesome, amazing. Thank you so much, Preston, for tapping into Game Over Edmonton. Got to get you back on here again. It was a wonderful chat with you, buddy.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I love being here.
No, of course. Anyways, that's it for Game Over Edmonton. I'm out of here. Zach and Dennis are back in the saddle, guiding you through the post-game talk when the Oilers wrap up their game against Anaheim on Sunday. Until next time, I am out of here. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe.
Game